Hello, welcome to Chapter 8, Section 4, factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. I'm on page 552. We're going to do problems 19 through 24. These are exactly the same as the other problems. The process is going to be exactly the same. That's why I like this method. The only thing we're going to do different, we're going to factor out a -1 so that I can change this leading coefficient to positive. But when I factor out the -1, everything changes signs. Let's talk about it with the first problem. I want this to be 2x squared, but in order to do that, I have to have a common factor of -1. That's going to leave positive 2x squared, which is what I want, but this positive 5 becomes -5x, and this positive 12 becomes -12. So you're like, well, does it really matter if I leave that negative or change it to positive? It looks like you made more negative than you had positive. It's the leading coefficient that I want to be positive by factoring on -1. The rest of it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to factor inside here, but I'm not forgetting that. I'm just going to factor inside here. I'm going to keep factoring. 2 times -12 is -24. The -5 goes right here. So what multiplies to give -24 but adds to give -25? That means one has to be positive, one has to be negative, and the number that looks bigger has to be negative. So 1 and -24, that's -23. 2 and -12, that's negative. When I add, I get -10. Keep going. 3 and -8. 3 times -8 is -24. 3 plus -8 is -5. That's my winner. (2x squared) goes here. -12 comes down here in the opposite corner. And the 3 and the -8 I get used for 3x and -8x. Now I factor across the rows and I factor in the columns to find out what my my product is going to be. Or not my product, my factors are going to be. Here's a 2, here's a 2 times 4, so I know I got a common factor of 2. I also have a common factor of x. That leaves the other x and -4. This is 3 times 1, this is 3 times 4, -4. So I get my common factor is 3. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times -4 is -12. So I write 2x plus 3 times x subtract 4. And if I turn that in, I'm going to get it wrong, because I still have that -1. I have to remember the -1. Don't forget my boy right there. All right, same thing. I'm going to factor out a -1, change the sign of everything. So I get positive 4n squared, positive 16n, and -9. Don't forget that -1. Now I'm going to work inside here. 4 times -9 is -36, and I put the 16 right here. I'm going to multiply and get a -36, but I'm going to add and get positive 16. That means the number, one's positive, one negative, and the number that looks bigger is going to be the positive one. So I'm going to write -1 times 36, that's 35. -2 times 18, that's 16. That's good. I can keep going. -3 times 12, -4 times 9, but I don't need to. I've already got it. Make my multiplication chart. 4 into the second power goes in the upper left corner. -9 goes in the lower right corner. -2 and 18, -2n and 18n. Going to factor across the top row. This is 2 times 2, this is 2 times 9. Both of them have a 2 and an n. That leaves the other 2 times n, and that leaves a 9. -2n and -9, the common factor is -1. -1 times 2n, -2n, -1 times 9 is -9. So my factored form is 2n subtract 1 times 2n plus 9, but don't forget the -1. Factor out a -1, that leaves positive 5x squared, -7x, -6. 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. Negative 7 goes down here. What two numbers multiply to give negative 30 and add to give negative 7? You can make a list if you want, go through it. It's going to be negative 10 and positive 3. Negative 10 times positive 3 equals negative 30, and if I add negative 10 plus 3, I get negative 7. 5x squared goes in the upper left corner, negative 6 goes in the lower right. Negative 10x and 3x take the other two corners. These two have only x as a common factor. That leaves 5 in the other x, and that leaves 3. These two have a common factor of negative 2. Negative 2 times 5x is negative 10x, and negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. So my factored form is x subtract 2 times 5x plus 3, and don't forget the negative. Number 22, I'm going to factor out a negative 1. That leaves 6x squared. Subtract 13x plus 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Negative 13 goes here. What two numbers multiply to give positive 12 but add to give negative 13? Negative 1 and negative 12. So I put the 6x squared from here, right there. The 2 goes here. And then these two are what we just figured out. And again, doesn't matter if I put the negative 1 here or the negative 12 there. Doesn't matter. What do these two have in common? They both have just x. That leaves 6x and minus 1. What do these two have in common? They both have a 2. But if I do 2 times positive 6, I get positive 12. So I have to factor out a negative 2, and then negative 2 times negative 1 equals positive 2. So I get x subtract 2 times 6x subtract 1, and don't forget the negative 1. Move that around a little bit so you can see it. Alright, so I'm going to factor out that negative 1. I get 4x squared plus 8x subtract 5. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. 8 goes right here. What two numbers multiply to give negative 20 but add to give 8? That's going to be positive 10 and negative 2. Negative 2. Sorry, forgot the negative. This is 2 times 2, and this is 2 times 5. So I'm going to factor out a 2x. That leaves the other 2x and the 5. This is negative 1 times 2. This is negative 1 times 5. So the common factor is negative 1. Let's check it. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. So I get 2x subtract 1 times 2x plus 5. And don't forget the negative 1. Finally, problem number 24. Factoring out the negative 1 gives me positive 5x squared. Subtract x, subtract 18. 5 times negative 18 is negative 90. The negative x means that the b is negative 1. Now, you can make a list of all the factors for 90, negative 90 actually. That's going to be 1 times 90, 2 times 45, 3 times 30, 4 doesn't go into it, 5 times 18 because I got the 5 and the 18 here, right? And eventually you're going to get down to negative 10 and positive 9. Negative 10 times positive 9 equals negative 90. Negative 10 times plus positive 9 equals negative 1. So my 5x squared goes here. Negative 10x, 9x, negative 18. My common factor across the first row is going to be 5x. That leaves the other x and the negative 2. My common factor across the bottom row is going to be 9. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. So 5x plus 9 times x subtract 2, and don't forget the negative 1. Okay, good luck with those.